We're ready?
I have the timer ready. 2.
Yes. Did everyone, do we have a sign up sheet or? Are we
Yeah,
gonna
right
go?
there.
All right, is nobody signed in that wants to say, wants to speak? Well, we'll stick for 2 minutes for now.
I asked you, told me it was 3, so you say. Oh.
Everyone?
Oh.
All right, so there's not very many people here. We can
Bump it to 3? All right.
First, we have Bob Wertheimer. Make sure you introduce yourself for the record, please.
Thank you. Bob Wertheimer, Stevenson. My beautiful wife Rosie and I purchased our home in 1998. 3-bedroom, 1 bath, right up the road here on the Blue Hill. There's 1 acre now. 1 acre abuts the road, and currently we have a sewer cap to clean out right next to our property. However, our house is roughly 300 feet up the hill. We had an estimate for the trench that's going to take to hook up the city sewer. And along with the trench, the hookup fees, we're talking $50,000 for us to hook up the city sewer. We appreciate that. I want to go through a little history here. Going back, when we purchased our house between 1998 and 2012, I came down to the city multiple times asking, hey, will sewer be available? We actually voted for the pie-shaped annexation. We were in the county, we were voted for the pie-shaped annexation to bring us in the city. So we voted for that, hoping to get services for our neighbor who needed water, and then also for us for sewer. Fast forward to 2012, 1 bathroom's not enough for our family, right? So we pulled the plug, went down to the county annex and said, hey, went through the whole process of getting a septic approved, test pits, design, paid a professional engineer. We over-designed our system, right? Because we want to make sure we're conscientious of the violations. So put in a concrete tank. We got literally a 50-year design life on this. Why did we do that? We talked to the county annex, we talked to the city, and we asked, if we put in a sewer, and if we put in a septic, sewer becomes available, can you make us hook up? And we were told by both the county annex and city, we have it right. No, if you have a functioning septic system, we cannot make you hook up, right? If you maintain it as functioning, we can't make you hook up. Fast forward, 17 April meeting, I really appreciate it. You guys are civil servants, public servants. Went through the 3 courses of action you're working through. Really grateful for that. I want to go through a couple things we heard at that meeting. So this penalty, right? I'm going to be penalized for something. I don't know what, but this penalty is up to $140, right? And then somebody said, oh no, $30. The city official said $30 would be much worse. Somebody else said, well, no less than half of the 140 would be reasonable. No data was provided. The numbers weren't done, no analyses, just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks. I understand that. I really think we need to work through the data a little bit. Somebody else said to us at that meeting, hey, we've been working on this for a long time. We've been working on this since 2023, right? That's not a long time. I wasn't even aware you were working on this. I get up early, I work hard, and suddenly I'm looking at a penalty, and I'm looking at you putting a lien on my house that I've been paying for the last 30 years. You're gonna put a lien on my house? It's so exciting. If you think about this, and you're all public servants, and I appreciate what you're doing, and this is hard decisions, but if you think about what you're doing and stuff like that, one individual, give me 5 seconds, one individual called for basically a workshop. We'd really like a workshop to go through the data. We'd really like to.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Sean, make sure you introduce yourself.
Because. Stevenson. This gentleman here, I'm also in sewer. My concern today is, that I've heard a little bit about possible city council members not living in the city. And, so maybe they were elected and they lived in the city and they've moved out since. So I just think that's a bad precedent. Maybe they should resign if they're not living in the city. Also, when this great country affords our rights to get up and speak out against atrocities and such like that, and so when it's great when people get up and stand up and do that. but when they can't stand up for a pledge of allegiance during the city council meeting, maybe they should resign or ask to be have their resignation submitted. That's about it. Just a few small concerns, and no disrespect, but I am late to another meeting, so.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, city council meeting.
Dana?
Hi, my name is Dana Hendricks. I am resident of Stevenson, and I'm here to express concerns about the phenomenon that we have in Stevenson with kind of a big proliferation of vacation rentals, especially in the downtown area, in the residential zone. We have a lot of out-of-towners coming to purchase homes just for the purpose of turning them into Airbnbs and things like that. People with no ties to our community, corporations in a lot of cases. And it's kind of hollowing out our community. And I don't begrudge any locals who own houses that they want to rent out and make a little extra money. But really trying to urge the city to do something to tighten up the ordinance that was passed 10 years ago that started to allow vacation rentals in the first place. It's much too lenient. We have folks really targeting our community from the outside because we have no rules like the river has, for example, about you have to live in the city in order to have a vacation rental. So I sent a letter to council last month or so, and the issue was referred to the planning commission. Janet and I attended that meeting 2 days ago, and we're happy to be working with them on coming up with some kind of public engagement process. But we're concerned. We learned at that meeting that that the current licensing process that's happening is not happening. So the one from 10 years ago that I think is too lenient to begin with is not even, hasn't been enforced. There's very like less than 10% compliance with that ordinance at this time. So we'd like to see the city council perhaps consider a moratorium on new licenses until the compliance can be sorted out, and until we can go through a process to reassess the ordinance from 10 years ago.
Yeah, just there's 28 new homes on the market as we speak, and our concern is, well, I think the process is fine and we have to do it, it's democracy, but it's kind of alarming. So I think, like Dana says, we're kind of considering a stopgap measure while the process.
Hey, Janet, can you introduce yourself for the record?
Oh, sorry, Janet Campbell Stevenson.
Thank you. Okay. Kathleen?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Kathleen Fitzgerald from the city of Stevenson. Welcome, new city administrator, Wesley Wooten. Nice to have you aboard. Okay, so the sewer, it fails to encompass major recommendations by the sewer committee. It puts the city in the business of overseeing on-site septic systems. And when the city extends main sewer lines into new areas, not enough time is provided for citizens to hook up to the lines in order to take advantage of the financial incentives. The wording in section 13.08.076, failure to connect penalty, seems contrary to instructions given to staff by both the sewer committee and the city council. If the lot owner fails to extend and connect to the public sewer system pursuant to SMC 13.08.072, the city may withhold development permits and certificates of occupancy. The penalties for citizens to hook up are too high. It's not feasible or fair for the citizen who has a perfectly functional septic system to pay a penalty of up to $1,691 per year. And the evidence of any issues related to on-site septic systems in Stevenson is the information doesn't seem to be available. It just seems like there's a lot of questions that are being asked, and we have a couple city council members that are asking questions, and I don't think those have been answered. How can they answer to the constituents of the city of Stevenson if they're not, you know, able to answer? If they're not getting the answers, how are we to get the answers from the city council? So my suggestion is you slow down a little bit, and you have maybe a town hall. You don't put this online, just online, because there's a lot of people that are not online. This needs to go out in letter format to all the city residents of Stevenson, so that everybody's involved, because there's a lot of people that don't have Facebook or don't get online. And just slow down a little bit, take a little look at everything, get more input from the city constituents here that you're supposed to be representing. I mean, just heard from this gentleman, he's going through a horrific ordeal. So we just need to, I think, be a little bit more compassionate, slow down a little bit, hear from the rest of the people it's going to impact, because you can't just ramrod this through and expect the ratepayers to pay this, and take the responsibility for this. That's my suggestion from what I'm hearing. I have to admit, I am not totally up to date with this whole sewer thing, but from what I see,
Thank you.
it's needs to be a little more discussion. Thank you.
All right, that's all that I have on my list for this portion. Is anybody else that would like to speak?
I'm a Gemini, can I speak again?
We have,
Did you send Mark the info chance?
Oh, no, sorry, I sent it to you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
we have Kelly? Do I have it on? Kelly on the agenda?
Yeah, she's supposed to be here. I don't know if perhaps she,
She might get the link.
um,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is the thing, Colleen, had to leave my dinner, so thank you for hearing me out.
Thank
God bless City Council.
Trying to get a hold of Kelly. She is on the agenda.
She's got her hand up.
Where's the? Oh, never mind. I see that that's part of the changes to the agenda. I don't need to slow down for that. All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Hey, did we, I just have a quick question. Wes?
On. Or.
Yes.
Another question on the consent agenda?
Do we need to remove it?
What's that?
The Pride Proclamation, I didn't see if the latest, if it was updated. Should just be First Mania Pride.
yes, that's the latest version
Yeah.
on there.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion.
And
I'll
move
move
that we,
to approve. Go ahead.
move that we approve consent agenda items A through E as modified.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Thank you. All right, chair's report.
Good evening. You guys have all been supplied, I'm assuming, the documents for April 2025. I'm here to see if you have any questions that are related to those documents that have been provided to you.
I've got one.
Okay.
So out of the 24, 25 traffic stops that were done. One was cited and the rest were all warnings. Any, yeah, throw me a bone, Under Sheriff?
Well, I've gone through those this week. I looked at a couple of them. They didn't really have any defined resolution at the end of that stop, whether it was cited or a warning was given. So I will make a recommendation that when they do that, they note whether it's been a verbal warning or a citation issue. That way we have some clarity on that point. I appreciate it. Okay.
Make
It'll work.
Thank
Stephanie,
you for what you do.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So do we have, I don't see Kelly anywhere else on the agenda where she's slotted in. Copy paste,
That was all. I'm sorry.
because I have that she's added to the agenda.
Yeah, yeah, she was supposed to be under the public comment.
Okay,
I see that online,
Here.
when I went online and looked at it. And she
yeah, it was under,
Two A or something,
yeah,
Yeah,
or.
under public comments.
unfortunately, I'm not sure. She didn't mention if she was going to be via Zoom. And so she may have gotten lost with the link, but I did send her the new one.
all right, so this agenda might be out of date.
Can we move her to later on in the?
Well, okay, so the only reason I'm asking is it's showed up as a change to the agenda. So that's why I'm looking for to see where is this change. So I'll see if I got a better.
Okay, because I've got the one, the
Listed under
most
public
current
comment.
one that's showing under 2A.
Yeah.
I have as a guest
Yeah.
speaker.
Okay. I don't see her. What do we know? Was she supposed to be here?
Yeah, she was supposed to be here again. She didn't say if she was going to be in person or via
All right,
Zoom.
well,
And
we'll see if we can get to the bottom of that. So 2A I don't have on here, so. So we're already into the consent agenda, moving along to the sewer ordinance.
All right, Carolyn did a great job of presenting the structure of the proposed changes for the sewer ordinance at the last meeting. And you all took public comments, so on that, I will briefly go over what those changes are, both to the ordinance as a program that the city would implement and to the draft ordinance that has been presented to you for tonight. So the current sewer ordinance provides a framework where connection to the city sewer is required when there's sewer that's available to a property or within 300 feet of a property in the case of new developments. So that has been largely an unworkable situation. And so you're looking at proposed changes to that. The changes that are proposed for you now have been developed on the basis of recommendations from a committee that was created for the purpose of reviewing, setting up expectations for how the system should work, since the existing system doesn't. It's been viewed on a broad stroke basis by the planning commission, and it's in front of you now. So that changes to that are broadly friendlier to the development of single family homes or duplexes or adding ATU to a property, and the division of lots into just two lots. And they're more strict for development of land divisions that are more than two lots, or commercial, industrial land uses, or multifamily land uses, instead of a requirement to connect or extend if it's within 300 feet. For those specific uses, an extension would be required before an approval could occur. So that's a tweak. It's friendlier to single family development. It's friendlier to just dividing lot in half or adding an ADU. It requires more of developers of bigger projects. Another feature of the ordinance as it currently is that once that sewer is available to you or comes to you, you have to connect, and you're compelled to connect. And if you don't connect, then the recourse is for the city to go to court and have the courts grant the city the authority to make that connection on your behalf. That's one of the parts that's unworkable. And so the change for that is instead of compelling you to connect through a court process, we would apply a penalty and not put everybody through that. So you have a choice to connect or pay the penalty. And there's no judgment. If you choose to pay the penalty, it just moves forward, and we don't go to court with our residents, our property owners. The existing program also doesn't consider the financial impacts, monetary impact of connection on property owners. So if the sewer is available, they have to connect. Sewer is within 300 feet, they have to extend and connect, and that's it. That's unworkable. And so there are connection incentives that are built into this program, and there are phase-in allowances to acknowledge that there's a monetary impact of connection to sewer, ongoing costs related to that. So the incentives would either waive the system development charge. That's a one-time fee that is payable when you connect to the city system. It goes to repay city debts. It goes to capital projects that are identified in the system development charge calculation. That can be waived if you connect immediately. Immediately, in this case, I'll describe those timelines later on. It can be waived if you're a property owner that's lower moderate income. For everyone else that either can't connect immediately or is not lower to moderate income, it can be deferred until there's a transfer of the property. So the SDC amount would be payable on that transfer.
Ben, we're out of order. I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:23 late. So sorry, carry on.
Okay, no sir. The phase-in allowance applies for those property owners that provides a reduction in the penalty amount that they would pay. And so instead of paying the full penalty amount, whatever it's set at, they would pay half the amount because they're agreeing to connect. Concept behind that is that there is a monetary requirement that's placed on them to have a trench, have the plumbers come in, make that connection. And by reducing the penalty that they would have to pay, they're able to save up some cash to do that, not put it on, take out a new loan or some home equity line of credit. They've got some savings ready for that to do in the connection time. So all those components of the program are still there in the draft, but we have updated the draft based on comments that we received at the last meeting. And on the basis of issues that city staff saw that required some clarity. Changes are all identified in the memo that was made available to you. Broadly, those changes are friendlier to those property owners of the city that are on septic. Both those who are on septic, that a sewer line might be extended past the property in the future and made available to the property in the future. And then also much more so for those property owners which have sewer available to them right now, but which have not been compelled to connect or asked to connect. So the timelines as they were drafted before was that the public works director would send a notice to the property owner saying, okay, sewer is available to your property and you have to connect. Give us a response within 90 days. And if you want to avail yourself of that SDC waiver, you would have to connect within the 90-day period. If you wanted to avail yourselves of the phase-in allowances or the deferrals, then connection would have to happen within 3 years. Those have been extended to 5 years on the long end, and then 180 days from the 90 days for the other factors there. That's for those to whom sewer would be made available in the future. And those properties would have some lead in. There'd be a capital improvement process that plays out. There'd be interaction with those property owners before the line is just in place and they get that notice. The property owners to whom sewer is currently available don't have that same luxury. This ordinance, when it would take effect, would apply to them immediately. And to acknowledge that they're in a different situation, the ordinance has been redrafted to give them 9 years instead of the 5 years for all others. It gives them 18 months instead of 180 days. There are some tweaks, there are some differences to those timelines that are in the ordinance that are explained, but broadly, again, we've extended those. We're being friendlier to people of our community who are using septic systems. The effort here is to make it the best we can for the most we can. The ordinance does acknowledge that that may not be possible for everyone. And so there's an appeal process that was in the program as it exists now, and it's in the program as it's moving forward. So that's still there. The draft may not be perfect for everyone, and we know that. We're not arrogant enough to believe there would be. So there's an appeal process where they could come directly to the city council to say, hey, you got it wrong for me and how this would apply to me. And give you the chance to agree or disagree with them. We've also had a chance from the last time to get information from the rate consultants about the upper and lower bounds of that penalty amount. So before we had the upper bound of that penalty amount as drafted, it's the normal base rate, about $140. We've now got the information on the lower bound for as it's drafted, and that's $40-ish. So penalty amounts that the ordinance authorizes the council to impose would be somewhere between $40 and $140 and escalate over time as the fees escalate. You still have the opportunity to set it somewhere different than that, but that upper and lower bound is there. For those owners, then remember that avail themselves of the phase-in allowance, that amount, whatever it's set at, is cut in half. So it could be as low as $20 a month if that's what you go to. Could be as high as $70 a month if that's the penalty that you were to impose. Making sure I capture everything. We made one material change, and that is we added the definition of development, and excluded from development are temporary uses or structures on wheels. So if there's a temporary use that's established, say a temporary commercial use, it's established where sewer is not available, temporary or not, according to the draft that was presented to the public before, they would have had to extend sewer to that. A temporary commercial use would have had to extend the public sewer system. That doesn't really work. So we've removed that as a possibility. It also has an effect on downtown properties or other properties where sewer is available. A temporary use or a structure on wheels, as it was drafted before, would have had to connect or pay the penalty for failing to connect. So that's been changed by adding this definition of development to it, which again is friendlier to the property owners and the developers. There are other clarifications that are made to make sure that it's questions don't arise later on. That's where I will end my report on that.
Did you go how the time has changed?
Try to.
Oh.
Yeah, we do have a graphic up here showing the longer timelines. It had been 3 years, it's 5 years for most everybody. For those that currently have a system, it's 9 years. Concept is that lead in time, that awareness of the project is the same as for others where it might be extended in the future.
Then so 90 days, 6 months. Big one. Everything got longer. Heard people say this is too short.
Okay, so, I would take this opportunity to get some comment from the public. Go ahead, Rick.
Rick Jessel, Stevenson. I strongly support the sewer connection program as outlined in the table on page 9. I think that it's not ideal, but certainly a lot better than what we had before as far as a moratorium, the stranded lots. Financial penalties for people. I do have problems with sections E and F of the purpose and policy at the beginning. On section E, it states a greater burden on city resources, but it could be that we could get some grants or other financing that would not place a burden for extending sewer lines. Section F, manage urbanization through the expansion of the public sewer system, was never a policy or purpose of the sewer committee or any discussions. This is an overlay that nobody's talked about or given any thought to, and is a separate discussion. And in fact, April 18th, 2024, when the city council looked at this, there was a strong sense in the council to keep Stevenson, that is, not to urbanly develop in a dense way, to look like Beaverton, Hood River, or wherever. So the feel and the look of Stevenson is important to everyone. So I would strike section F. And also, as far as limiting growth for commercial folks, we have a Rock Cove Hospitality Center with 15,000 square feet of commercial space plus 48 bedrooms, condos, and cottages coming up. It hasn't stopped any development. Shenandoah is going through 3 phases. Hidden Ridge, Angel Heights. There's money to be made. The contractors will be there and certainly will make money. So we're going to double the size of Stevenson according to the future plan. There's 151 lots in Stevenson, 19 would be the 20 acres, 5 with 3 acres. So as Mayor Anderson said about the sewer expansion, perhaps it would be a measured expansion as the city can make it happen, which is going to take years, I would say. I would scratch F because we haven't addressed it at all, and there's been no public discussion of managing section. And I have my problems with section E as far as city resources. Hopefully that will happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Anyone else? All right, close public hearing at 6:34. So this is where we move into council staff discussion. I'd like to remind everyone that this has been a collaborative process from the beginning. This is realized that it was much more than the city council could handle on their own. Went to committee, encouraged all different facets of the community to participate. So this is not an ordinance that has been presented by staff. This is an ordinance that staff has been working on at your direction. So with you could couch your comments in a way to keep this process moving along as to and not make it something that staff has done wrong. So would anybody like to begin?
Begin with a question. Okay, one of the concerns that I had was, you said there's an appeals process that was part of the existing ordinance language. Since, and I apologize, since I've had a surgery this week, I've looked through all the changes, but could you tell me where I would find that appeals process?
You're testing us, Chuck.
Sorry.
It's down near the end, Chuck.
The
Near
appeal
the end?
process is, in at page 12, 130807-8,
Page 12.
12 of 47.
If you're on the larger one,
No,
it's,
okay.
yeah, it's on page 32, 30, 35, there you go. It's really two.
130807-8, connection with public sewer required appeal.
Yeah. Page 35. Search up here. Long one.
Oh, there we go.
So the underlined red text in that, or the underlined text is the new text. The double underlined green text is what had been in the ordinance, what's in the current ordinance, the current program. And then the strike through is removed from that.
highlight anything.
Yeah. My concern was that people that have exceptional issues, that they have an avenue to be able to appeal to the city, even possibly enter into individual contracts for accommodations. Bob's examples of having a 300-foot run to run his line up to his house is a good example. I had a couple other people contact me this week, and I know that I've got a neighbor whose property actually, the house itself sits below the street level, which would require some sort of a load lift. And if there are provisions that the city can make accommodations, to help either facilitate that or make an exception where they continue to stay on their septic, at least for a time being or whatever.
I believe that this does that. Relief available section of that, I can read that out. The council may at its sole discretion grant or deny relief upon appeal. Available relief includes but is not limited to exempting development from the requirement to extend the public sewer, extending the period of connection when the connection incentive is available, extending the phase-in period to better amortize the useful life of existing on-site septic system, and reducing the penalty for a failure to connect. So I think that facilitates your question about individual contracts. All the groups are subject to change depending on circumstances and depending on the council's view of that proposal.
So why wouldn't we just treat all new development equally then? And if if it's financially infeasible for someone who's building a family home, they can use the appeal.
That's not a question I can answer. That's a question that the existing program is what is evolved based on the council's direction.
Yeah, I was addressing the things mentioned in that paragraph F that Rick was commenting on. I
can state it a different way. That's a council discussion to have that.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring it up.
Go for it.
On the appeal process, I think it'd behoove us to minimize the number of potential appeals and to deal with those issues now as we write this ordinance up, so that we don't have to become a court of law, so to speak, and get all these different cases. And one of the things on there is some of these easements are very long and they go through somebody else's property. So if we correct some of the situations that we're going to end up with dealing with later anyway, we could just correct them now and have this ordinance be a better ordinance. That would be my recommendation. Also, one of the things is council has changed, so we're going to get we could get into haphazard situation where certain council treated some people this way and other councils treated other people this way. And then you get into the whole issue, the legality issue as well. Are we setting precedent, which I don't think we are because we're not at the Court of Appeals level, but you're going to get into all those arguments. I just think the more time we take and the better we can fix these different issues that have come up now, it'll pay for itself. And I just wanted to make my comments on the appeal now since Chuck brought it up. Other comments as the discussion goes on.
Yes, we'll carry on.
Oh, well, one of the other comments I made that I was concerned about is the data. Now, I heard some data there earlier about the $20 to the $70 is one range, and the 40 to the whatever, or the 70 to the 140, whatever it was. But what I'm curious of is two things. One, do we know how many people, let's say that, do we know the exact number of people and who those people are that are on septic along a sewer line now? And have we identified those people? And then have we done any analysis over the revenue we would bring in if we said to those people, okay, if we sent them the notice, okay, you're adjacent to a sewer line, we would like you to hook up. Have we done any different projections? How much money are we talking about potentially that the city could get or not get based on this ordinance passing? Because then if we, and maybe that information's out there and I'm just missing it, because what I'm struggling with is, how do I know if we should have it be $20 penalty versus $140 penalty? In other words, what can the city afford to do? Those are why I asked about those numbers. In other words, so I don't know where this ordinance puts us at from a financial standpoint.
I think
That makes sense.
what the penalty amounts prescribed based upon the choices that they made.
I don't know what the city needs. I mean, I know what the penalties are, but those are arbitrary things. I don't know. What are the needs of the city? Like if we did nothing, let's say we did not pass this ordinance and we know we got our sewer plant paid for, right? In other words, do we need this ordinance to pay for the sewer plant? That we've already
This
built?
isn't about the city. This is about the rates that our ratepayers pay.
I know, but when we had the rate study done earlier this year, it wasn't talking about this, the revenue from this ordinance.
Right.
In other words, so we're fine without this ordinance, right? Or am I wrong?
The
Do we
rate-
need the money from this
The
ordinance?
city is,
No.
this is about the ratepayers.
No, but what I'm trying to say, do we as an entity need the money from this ordinance? Or are we?
To make
gonna
that
be
rate
hurting?
schedule work, the answer to that is no.
So we don't need the money.
The money would be generated for future development, also an opportunity to leverage for financing.
So this is new money for new projects later on, right? I'm not trying to.
No.
The penalty amounts don't,
This offsets the rates that the ratepayers pay. The rates that you've established cover the cost of this system. If you develop a new revenue stream for that, that means that we reduce the revenue stream that the existing ratepayers pay.
Okay.
This is not about the city and the city's budget.
Okay,
This is
so
about the
it-
ratepayers.
So if we leave this alone, we know what the rates are gonna be. So what I don't know is the impact of the 140 versus the $20 revenue. I don't know what that impact is, let's say on the city ratepayers. Because my preference would be as just one city council person at this point, not knowing that in more detail and seeing that data. Somebody mentioned this, Matt, is I'd say, hey, if we have to have a penalty at all, that would be $20. So I would need to see why are we having it higher than the 20. In other words, I'm gonna be as friendly as possible to my constituents. And the lower that number is, the better.
The 20, and I'm gonna be different,
Yeah,
I'm trying to, I'm saying the 20 was 50% off the lowest rate. So
Okay, that would be.
That's where the 20 comes, so it was 40 to 140 is
Yeah.
the range, anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So anyway, I think I made enough comments to show my discomfort on some things.
I guess it's-
I'm missing.
You're missing the constituents that are paying that rate. And so it may be higher for this one, but it becomes lower for the other ones. And
Yeah.
I understand that you don't have.
And this is really about then how to pay for our sewer system. It's
No.
not,
It's about how to provide as much equity as possible for all the great things.
but we want their money is what we want, right? We want more money from different people then. So
We don't
because,
want more, it should be reallocated.
well, so we're wanting to take money from one group to help another group, right? Now, I'm not saying that's bad. But that's what we're doing. It's a tax. What I'm trying to say, but the other group isn't on the sewer system.
They are though.
They're not, they're on
They're
septic,
right next to it,
but their
they're on
septic
it,
system's working
and they
just.
will have to pay for it if
I'm,
they fall.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to argue, I'm just telling you where I'm coming from with just one measly little person vote here. I'm just concerned because they have the functioning septic system, so we're gonna have a penalty. I just need to see real good justification for it. And so we have two groups of people we're trying to help, A and B, those on the system that are getting hurt because it's so expensive, and those not on the system. And I, as a council member, am trying to hurt the least number of people. So I don't know if I have a hard time saying to group A, well, we're gonna hurt you more because we need to help group C, help group B. I just don't have enough evidence to where I'm gonna hurt group A to help group B.
I think that's maybe why the penalty range is so important.
Yes,
Because, when the city takes out a loan to do a project, the financiers don't look at just the people that are gonna be benefiting from the infrastructure on that date. The loans for all of the citizens within the city limits. So, that capital investment is the responsibility of each parcel, whether or not they're connected to the system. So the rates are made up of a portion of capital investment, repayment, debt service, and also a portion of operating and maintenance costs. So
that's valid point.
so $140 is a combination of those two items. The $40 is just the capital, just the debt service, just the infrastructure for which all the citizens, including the ones who are currently on septic and are not hooked up to sewer, are responsible for anyway. So, I think that's kind of, if you take out the operation and maintenance, you really are eliminating the portion of the penalty, which they're not taking advantage of. They are taking advantage of the infrastructure because the infrastructure is in place to support them, even though they're not connected to it. But you're removing the operation and maintenance piece of that because they're not putting anything into the system. So I think the penalty addresses exactly what, your concerns there.
No, just, the one question I didn't hear an answer to is, have we identified those citizens?
We have. Mhm.
Okay, because the last time I checked, we hadn't, right?
No.
We didn't have that list when I checked with. Remember, I sent you an email, and I said, do we have a
Yep.
list of?
But I forwarded that on.
So could could the council get a copy of that list, so we know who those people are? Have we notified them?
We notified everybody.
Did those
Every
people
single
that are
person know
on,
about it.
then I should stop so that other people have a chance to speak besides myself. So I don't overuse my time. Do the people that are on septic that are immediately adjacent to an existing sewer line now, have they been identified and said you are at risk of getting a notice that you're different than the other people that aren't next to a sewer line now? You might not get a notice for 20 years because we never get our act together and build a sewer line across your house. But that subset I'm mentioning, have they been specifically noticed and said you're at risk? You might be subject to whatever penalty we come up with because you have a septic system on the sewer line. Have we notified those people with that special notice?
Nobody's called every person on that.
No, I don't mean call, I mean identify them, mail them a letter.
Yeah, not, everyone
So we have-
got a bill that said on it, everyone has received the same notification of the ordinance.
Okay, from a community organizing aspect of having done it for many years, I don't consider that adequate notice. And I'm gonna stop.
Michael, thoughts?
I also I'm a fan of the range, the lower end of that range, taking at the operational maintenance, having people be responsible for, the dollar amount we're talking about for, what all the citizens are kind of basically on the hook for if you're citizens of the city of Stevenson. But if you're not using the system currently, taking those operation and maintenance costs out. So for me, again, it's just one person, definitely, I lean toward the bottom, and I like the appeals process in there. I know we expanded that to be more robust, because I was concerned, because every individual is different, every lot, what happens can be different. I know, Councilman Rice, mentioned, we could have to rent from someone else's property. That's not the case because we're the only, if it's available, it has to rent it from your property. You don't have to cross anyone's property. That's the term of available. There is no 300 foot anymore.
With the easement, there would be. With the easement language.
If they already have it.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
we
a
already have
utility
it.
easement.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
utility easement, okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So, anyway. So, those are my. And we may have more thoughts, bring up other, things, but that's kind of my 2 cents. Mr. Fox?
I look at this ordinance, and by the way, I want to be on the record that, when this was brought before the council to push out as a draft for a public document, both myself and Councilmember Rice voted against it. Because there's a lot of things in it that need to be reworked. There have been things added to it that do not reflect what the sewer committee put forward. And I've got a lot of concerns about some of the things that are within the ordinance itself. An email that I got from Wes Houston, which was one of the sewer committee members a year ago. He says the triggers laid out by the sewer committee were based on the assumption that the city would foot the bill for extensions unless a larger development or commercial project was on the table. The elephant in the room that you may or may not be aware of is, in fact, that this current proposed ordinance is aiming to have almost anyone pay for the extensions, not the city. And basically and I actually sat down with Wes this last week and had almost a 3-hour conversation with him. When we first started talking about this ordinance, the issue that first brought it to the attention of everybody was the 300 foot. Everybody was concerned about that 300 foot. If I'm within 300 feet, I've got to pay to have the extension brought to so that I can hook into it. That's what started. What we have done as a city is we've gone shopping for a chainsaw, if you will. And we walk into the chainsaw store and there's a $450 steel chainsaw sitting there that will adequately do exactly what we need to do. And maybe probably do it for several years beyond. But then we look over on the shelf over there and there's a $1,500 chainsaw sitting over there. That's a lot nicer. It's got a lot more whistles. And whether or not it'll get us the same distance in time, we don't know, but it looks a lot better. And so what the city has done is we've taken a look at where we are at. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. We've taken a look at where we are at right now as far as how many people we have on the system. And we have said, okay, we have this many more people that need to come into the system. So that's one amount. But then we have to take a look at what we're going to do as far as expansion, whether or not we're going to annex. We have all of these other properties around. There's been talk about annexations that might come down the road 10, 15 years. So we have to build a system that's going to maintain all of that. So now we're taking our $450 chainsaw, and rather than pay the $450, we're going to pay the $1,500, and we're going to take that amount and we're going to put it back on the ratepayers. And that's not right. I came down and I talked to Liana. I said, Liana, there needs to be a better way to do this. We need to pass a bond that puts us in as a line item on our property tax. That way, every individual property owner pays into the system, and it's fair and equitable. The response was, that takes too much work, we don't have the time. We probably won't get somebody to buy the bond. There were a lot of excuses why that wouldn't work. And so we end up with our, I can't remember what the numbers of the loans are, but the $4.5 million loan and, whatever they are. And then we have to come up with a way to pay all that. So not only are we having to pay for what we would have needed to fix so that it would be adequate because of an unfunded mandate basically by DOE, now we have to also pay for that additional amount that none of us here may even be alive to see that transition over into that system. So this to me seems more of a money grab than anything else, because I don't understand what is so difficult about this ordinance. Why can't we, what happened, well, for one thing, the conversation was, well, what we'll do is we'll figure out how much it costs to do McAvoy. If we extended this, as an example, we extended the sewer line into McAvoy, how much would that cost? How much would it cost for, First Street or whatever it might be, if we want to make those extensions all the way to the city line? And we have those amounts available. And then as money becomes available in a grant, whatever it might be, then we go, hey, we got that amount of money, we can take care of this project. What happened to that? It's now all thrown into one big ordinance. And you have this scale of, our bills continuing to rise up through 28 up to like $155 a month. It doesn't make sense to me. If you're going to extend a line and you have the ground open and you come up to someone's property that has an existing septic system on it, you put the stub in and you say to them, do you want to hook up now? No, I've got my system. It's going to work for 15 years. Well, okay. What we're going to do is in 15 years, we're going to come back to you then because you're going to want to hook in. But within that 15 years, because we put the stub in, you have a stub fee of $30 a month all the way through for that 15 years. So you're paying that stub fee, whatever it is, $30, $140, whatever you want to call it. At the end of that 15 years, when your system goes bad and you have to hook in, you're not going to get charged a system development charge because you've been paying all along to be able to have that stuff there and available when you need it. And the same thing works for a lot owner that's a bare lot, but at some point he may decide he wanted to develop that lot. And so the city puts the stub in. He starts paying his $30 a month. And at some point he decides, okay, I want to put in my house. So he goes ahead, he hooks up, doesn't have to pay a system development charge. $6,000, $8,000, whatever it is. He just goes ahead, hooks in, and off he goes. There's none of this, low income, all others get waivers. A deferral is not a financial incentive. What kind of an incentive is a deferral? You're still paying the money. You just don't have to pay it right now. So let's start calling things what they are instead of doing the smoke and mirrors. So I want to read something else that Chuck, you wrote. You wrote to Ben and Carolyn. Yeah. back in April. You said this. All new construction should have a plan to connect to the city's public sewer system. Should it be immediately available? All residential constituents currently on septic should be excluded from having to connect to this public sewer system, even if immediately available, until such time as their system fails or is in need of consequential repair, not general service issues. Constituents currently on on-site systems should also be excluded from having to connect until their system should fail or fall out of mandated compliance. Given no reasonable time frame to make a public sewer system immediately available to constituents wishing to build new projects, the city should make the exception to issue permits for residential septic systems. You talk about raising capital from loans, municipal bonds, grants, public and private donations. The repayment of such bonds or loans would have to be a line item on a property tax bill. By financing the project and including its repayment by county taxes, you may be able to refinance and include existing indebtedness to the extent that even though tax bills will go up, people's monthly water and sewer bills could eventually come down. So why don't we take a look at the long term? How much money are we going to pay out? $12 million, whatever it is, pass a bond for that amount, get it on a property tax line item, and get our sewer bills back down. So that, I've got a lot more, but there are a lot of things in this ordinance that need to be worked on. You guys, the staff changed available from what the sewer committee said to a public sewer that abuts a lot along any street, alley, right of way, or easement accessible to the lot owner. Generally, this means extension of a public sewer is not necessary to serve a lot. If my lot backs up to another guy's lot, my street doesn't have sewer, but this guy's does. But there's a utility easement going through up through my property. Am I now required, even though it's clear on the other side of the other guy's lot, am I required to hook into it according to this? Yes, I am. So it's stuff like that that needs to be reworked in this ordinance. And your public sewer available. It talks about connection incentives hereby established. The incentive allows for the waiver or deferral, there's that word deferral, of a wastewater system development charge applicable to the development on a lot. What type of development? Are we talking single family, multifamily? We talking industrial, commercial? It's not, there are a lot of things in the ordinance that need to be fixed before it goes any further.
Bills? Or would you like additions? So far, it was just a question. What else you got?
No, I only had one other question, and it was regarding the phase-in period for the nine-year phase-in, where they made a provision for a 50% discount off the penalty amount. At the end of the 9 years, if they don't actually connect, is that penalty reverted back to full penalty for that 9-year period?
I want to make sure that made it through the redraft. It was in the previous draft.
Chuck, excuse me, but I hate the word penalty.
We're
talking about
it's not-
people that are struggling, and we are talking about penalizing the very people we're supposed to be helping. And that vision
It's the
is
mechanism.
not part of this ordinance.
it's the mechanism that we wound up using after discussing the legalities of it with Robert at that one.
Well, yeah. Cause we were gonna fine them. We were gonna make them pay for the service they didn't get, until we decided to call it a penalty.
Versus.
You're basically screwing them.
Penalty and fine are the same thing.
So
Steve was the thing.
anyway,
So the draft does still have it on page 11 of 47, 43 of the overall packet.
yeah,
E
which
E3,
three
lot owner must agree to pay for the
back billing for the entire amount. Okay, all right,
if they fail to meet the timeline.
right.
Mr. Mayor.
I
Okay, I'm sorry.
just as a point of clarification, wanted to thank Dave for reading that one section. It was obviously prior to some of the iterations that we went through on changing the ordinance. I think the only thing that I always felt strongly in is that as a community or a public utility, that the community had an obligation for everybody to participate, whether it be a single item on a tax bill or some other mechanism. And so it kind of evolved to what it is today from what you read from what I wrote previously.
The money grab.
Well,
Hang on.
not a money grab. I feel that people, everybody should be participating, even those people that have existing septic systems. Kind of like the same way that we pay for schools, pay for sheriff, for emergency medical, all of those things that we pay for them. There was kind of an interesting quote here that I'm going to give you. Get used to the fact that this was an AI generated statement. Paying taxes and fees for the public good is in the best interest of everyone in a society because it enables the provision of essential services and infrastructure that benefit all citizens and contribute to a well-functioning and prosperous society. And as I said, we pay for schools, we pay for sheriff's departments, streets, emergency medical help, and all the other things that we pay for. And while we often don't avail ourselves of those services, we understand that they are a vital component of our community and are essential to a thriving community. But nothing happens in a vacuum. And so when we start talking about city's responsibility to do this, stakeholders' responsibility to do that, we're talking about the same people. And so people kind of have a tendency to think, well, the city should do this. I shouldn't have to pay for this because I've already paid for my own system. And telling ourselves that a public service is not our personal responsibility implies that it's someone else's entirely. I said, is it fair to charge people a fee for a public service system that they are not connected to? Well, we've kind of made the argument that you could say no, it's not fair. Is it fair that only those that are connected to the public system pay for it? I don't think that's fair either. It's a public system. We can't go back and change any of the decisions that were made or that weren't made 20, 30 years ago, but I'm hoping that today that we have the courage to make decisions that prevent us from having to have this discussion 20 years from now. That because 10 years from now, these services are still not available. So in some way we need to put together a mechanism that's going to allow us to finance, leverage, invest in getting this infrastructure put in place. So we don't have to come back to this issue, 20 years from now.
Lucy?
Hi, sorry. I probably agree with about half of what Dave said and about half of what Chuck said. I don't really have any additional comments that they didn't bring up.
Okay, so before, any other thoughts though? I don't mean to interrupt you if you're not done.
Oh, go ahead.
So again, this process has been, it's been at the direction of council every step of the way. Where it feels like we are right at the edge, right at the finish line, as far as, dealing with this onerous task of deciding, and even if it's an unpleasant word, figuring out what the penalty is for non-connection. So it feels like we're very close on all of this. So if there is additional comment, then we've talked about this for 40 minutes. So what can we do tonight? What are we working on tonight? Don't forget, this is something that you have been working.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Mr. Mayor. I think we've all made good points tonight, and I think a lot of your points, Chuck, agreed with Dave's points. It's a matter of how we get that whole group to pay and what they pay and how much. And one of the reasons I was so focused on the revenue is, like, let's say in a 6-month period, what if we were to pass this tonight? Let's say it might be a 3-2 vote, but if it passed tonight, do we know how much extra revenue this ordinance would bring in 6 months? Do we have any estimate of that number? We know estimates can go up or down, but there's estimates based on data. If we don't have that number, staff don't have that number based on verifiable data, then I recommend that we not fall into the sunk cost fallacy, which is we spent so much time on this that we better make a decision. Because what if, in a democracy, and I think Mr. Breckles will appreciate this, having worked in government a long time and how long things take to fix, that this is just part of the process. This is how we learn. So I wouldn't look at this, let's say, if we don't make a decision tonight, I wouldn't look at this as we've wasted our time. We've learned a lot. And just like we've had iterations where you're thinking now is different from what he read, that's because you're learning. So I think what I'm proposing is that we not rush the decision tonight and we keep learning, because especially if we don't know the cost, we don't know, we're not hurting ourselves financially. If we can't prove in 6 months' time we're hurting ourselves financially, then there might not be any cost to putting this off. It doesn't mean we don't do what you suggest, because we have to, and that is look at the long term. But what if there's a better way? What if we can float a bond? So I just don't, it's not bad if we're not done yet. It just means maybe we can make it better, because and I understand there's also a fallacy in business that you want it 100% right. Well, you never get there. So I understand that at some point we're only going to have 85% or 90% of the information, and we have to make a decision, and we may be making some mistakes. That's just life. We got it. And the only reason I kept pushing the last meeting, we're going to have a new city manager, is because we also got somebody else with different experiences become a participant. And so another month or 6 weeks, is that so bad? Because we got another brain helping us that we have hired to help us. The last comment I'm going to make is Dave was giving us a proposal. I know that there's, in Congress, they actually name proposals after people, and I really like the Dave Cox proposal. So I don't know. Anyway, so anyway, I want to name that proposal after him, whether it gets legs or not. I like where he was going. And I'll just say one more thing, and my speech doesn't still add up to his. Is if I were like the block captain of one block, and I had to fix the sewer system on that block, and they said, okay, Pat, we've given you all the input, you go away, you make a proposal, and you come back to us. I think what Dave is saying, that as the block captain, if I come back with this proposal to my block neighbors, just that one block, and say, this is a proposal, they probably would run me out of town. So I'm just saying that there might be a better proposal that we as the block captains can bring back to our block and say, what about this? And it answered your question. Your question is not perfect, but it's what we're gonna have to live with.
25 homes that we said that would be affected or that are currently within reach.
So
$20
$0 to $21,000 is what you would get in 6 months.
But didn't we also say that nothing would happen in 6 months?
So it could be 0.
Yeah.
And it could also be every single person, every 25 would connect. And then we would pay the base fee and it would be $21,000.
Okay, so we're not really hurt that much financially.
I think the part that we're,
The range.
the message that we're missing, that is being missed is that
Yeah,
it's not an opportunity to just take money. It's an opportunity to lower the rates for everyone. That's what we're working on here.
And that didn't get lost in the budget.
Okay.
Mayor, excuse me, but how does it lower the rates? Because I'm looking at that graph. And it's going up. It's $155 in 2028.
The rate structure that we have now doesn't consider this revenue source. If you all
It's
adopt something,
25 additional units that you're talking about.
Does not consider them.
it does not consider them. We don't have a penalty, a fine amount to put into a scenario that would amend those rates and spread everything out once we don't know that there's going to be a penalty. So we don't know any of that until we have decisions from you all. And once decisions start to be made, then we can do the projections. And if it were to be 21,000, you can have scenarios based on that 21,000 number and the impact that that has on everyone else's rates. But we're not there yet because we would just have paper that's pushed around and we don't know whether that's real.
We've had a really hard time answering people's questions too. There's a lot of fear in the community. And we can't give them answers because we don't have an adopted ordinance. And every time we come back, we make revisions based on new information. And so we've done it a number of times. The memo that's been put together gives you 3 options. You can abandon this entirely and we can just, start to enforce what we have now. You can tell us what you want to change, based on, new information. It sounds like, Dave, you have a few things you'd like to see change. We didn't hear about them last meeting, but if you hear about them this meeting, you make those changes if everyone agrees. Or you say, we're gonna throw it all out and start all over and form a new committee or whatever you guys want to do, if you still agree that the existing ordinance is not what you want. So those are your options.
Dave, have you delineated the things that you're concerned
Oh,
about?
or the sports, you could pass it as it's written now.
Do what?
Have you delineated the concerns that you have? Would you
Well,
be-
I have, but I think it deserves, like Pat tried to do last time.
Yeah.
Is a workshop and work through all this stuff. And get it ironed out rather than us keep doing this every public meeting. Let's get it ironed out, get these things fixed and then present it in June.
You all didn't indulge me the last time I tried to do just thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. So the one concrete suggestion I heard from Dave was to remove from the definition of available, page 3 of 47, 26 of the overall packet. Public sewer abuts a lot along any street, alley, right of way, or easement accessible to the lot owner. He would suggest changing that to any street, alley, or right of way accessible, or right of way. Period. Yeah, that's a concrete, and so up or down on that, to remove that or keep that in there. And then if there are other concrete suggestions like that, you can process through in a similar way, and we can move through without a workshop, but just very quickly what the suggestion changes are and what the council's feeling about those.
If you want to do that very quickly.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
we could.
but if you can do it. The thing about the thumbs up or down, I don't know if that records what's happening, whatever. It just seems. But whatever.
Whatever.
All right, so you had some very concrete,
Sure. Is that an agreement to do that? Pat's suggesting don't do that.
No, I just, the thumbs up or thumbs down just seems, it's not, I don't know if that records what we're thinking well, if people don't see your thumb. But whatever.
Like the individual or just, because we're all just looking for
Yeah.
consensus, not looking. For
Yeah, I assume that's probably a fine system.
Well, the other part of this is a working document that could be changed if there's something came up in the future.
Yes, you can always amend.
Okay. But
Well,
go ahead.
And I will tell you that some of these changes are pretty drastic.
Yes, I don't know if we can.
I don't think you can do it here tonight. For example, I've got the whole public sewer available connection incentive phase-in allowance. I've got the whole thing marked red. Because I don't think we should be doing it.
Okay.
You know, and it's those types of things. I mean, deferral, that whole section's all red. Failure to connect penalty, that's all red. So administrative appeal, health officials, why is the city trying to get into the septic system business? When the health department is the one that determines whether or not you can
The
have.
state compels us to, the state compels us to have that.
Pardon?
The state requires us to have that option. If the health department requires somebody to connect, the state requires the city to act as the appellate body for that.
But why is the city requiring their director to go out and approve a septic system before they are approved to hook up to it? When that septic system is that's all health department. That has nothing to do with the city and the director.
That is a question I can't answer. That's a question.
But
that
that's
council
in
can
here.
consider.
So those are the things that are in this.
Well, let's
that need
start
to
going
be
through it. Let's just see how far we get. So, changing the definition of available to have a period after right of way and strike the or easement accessible to the lot owner. Is that something that you want to see and make an approval of?
That would
That's
be,
true.
that'd be fine with me.
Me too.
Okay, so we can make that change, so it would read available, public sewer abuts a lot along any street, alley, or right of way. Generally, this means extension of a public sewer is not necessary to serve the lot. And that's something that we can do tonight. The next concrete one, Dave, that you have?
Well, let's go back to page 22 or page 1. The second part of F, if we're not going to strike F out completely,
Maybe you should.
this approach is expected to keep Stevenson. This approach could inadvertently decrease the inventory of land available for the latter development types, and therefore yada yada yada. I don't think that needs to be in there.
Can I ask a
Strike
question? on
F entirely.
that? Yeah, sure.
I would strike out that
All
completely.
right, that's consensus. Look at us go.
Okay.
Excellent.
What about section E? What does
Okay,
section E
that's
do?
proposing to remove section E, strike section E entirely.
I'm just F.
What does E do? though? What, if it weren't in the ordinance, does it change it? What does it do other than opinion? Now, maybe, yeah, it's been a while since I read section E, a few hours, but what is the purpose of section E? If it wasn't in the ordinance, would it change anything?
That's not what we're here to do.
No, but
I would
that's a
say the only thing it does is it provides further counsels with the reasoning why we are
Okay, but is that in any other ordinance?
there. That is in other ordinances, yes. That type of thought process, so that when we're all dead and gone.
Hopefully sooner
Which
than
may
later.
not be, which may not be too
Oh,
soon.
boy.
Okay.
But yeah, that.
Okay, no biggie.
So strike E or keep?
Keep E.
Keep E,
It-
strike F.
All right, next one.
I had development check, but you explained that, so that's good. On page 6 of 47, it's also known as number 27. On-site sewage system, the latter part of it says, on-site sewage system also refers to a holding tank sewage system or other system that does not have a soil dispersal component. It's a tank. You have to pump it. It's not putting out effluent into the ground. Why is that in there? That has nothing to do with the sewer.
Which letter is that, Dave?
It's O,
O.
number one.
Number one.
Yeah, oh, one.
The state, or how the state defines an on-site sewage.
Yeah, we certainly didn't workshop that, as staff to figure that out, so we were copying and pasting that from somewhere.
You tested me here, Ben.
Keep that, well, hold on, so
Right.
keep that sentence or strike that sentence.
I think it should be straight.
I agree with striking.
Straight
So,
out.
so someone that has a tank and they're flowing into a tank and then they have to have it come and be pumped every once in a while.
Every
They should
2
be-
years? Yeah.
They should be treated differently than someone that has a tank that then goes to a drain field.
Yes. Because if that system fails, then they're gonna have to connect because they can't put in a new drain.
New drain field, yeah.
Whereas
But we're
this,
talking about equity, right?
this has no,
Rates.
this has no drain field.
I think, let's see.
But I think that that change is beyond what you could make as a minor tweak, and it would require additional components of a program in order to work everything out. So I would suggest not doing that. And if
Yeah,
that's
so-
something that you want to,
Workshop, I think.
delay passage of and talk about more, that's the type of thing we should talk about.
And I think that was the point. I appreciate the fact that we're making progress, and Ben, you're to be commended for that. I say that sincerely. Some of these issues, though, it's not as easy as a thumbs up or down. They're more complicated.
Correct,
No,
that's
the
why,
point of-
that's why, just like that, correct, that's correct. But next one from Dave or anyone else?
Wait, what do you wanna do? What do you guys wanna do with that? What's this definition?
That one's on hold because it would require more than just striking or adding something small.
Anybody, I'm up to page 10. Anybody have anything prior to that?
My
Well-
suggestion was to require all new development to connect.
There was a typo on page 9.
Okay, but two different things there. Let me see that yours and your typo.
Lucy, where are you talking about, Lucy?
So on page 9, where there's the table that says connection requirements, instead of determining whether it's required based on the type of development, all developments would be required to connect or extend the connect.
And then we could have the exception for if it's financially infeasible for the appeals process.
And that's another one. Let me think through. I'm not really.
So you're talking about land division resulting in 2 lots or a single family or 2 family, Lucy?
Yeah.
So the committee did not want to, that was.
That,
yeah, the
that's
committee
totally
felt
against what the
concerned about that.
committee.
Yeah, that's,
They know that, so just Lucy's suggestion to simplify that table for new developments, it'd be all development.
I don't like that. I don't like that they all would have to extend it. I like, the idea of the table was to,
right.
was very much to, more about the single family putting it in as opposed to a development having to bring sewer to themselves, so.
Okay, that's consensus no for that, Lucy. Next potential change.
What? The next one?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Would you have, Pat, do you have any?
No, and I don't know if it's in order because we're going through page numbers or,
I'm just going by the page numbers.
yeah, well, one is the penalty, and I think that may be a bigger issue.
I'm getting.
Okay, I'm gonna be quiet because you're going pretty well.
Well, I think he's got notes on most of the things that we discussed.
Yeah,
We'll
so
get
I'm
to
just
them,
gonna be
and then you
quiet.
can be yes or no, so go ahead, Dave.
So I guess, the next thing. That,
Okay.
okay, public sewer availability. I'm not sure we need that based upon what I'm gonna talk about next, which is available connection incentive phase-in allowances. We first talked about the applicable to the development, what type of development.
On page 10.
That's, yeah, under A, 13080748, established, number one. Connection incentive hereby established, incentive allows for the waiver or deferral of a wastewater system development charge applicable to the development on the lot. So just talking about a couple of things there, deferral, what type of development are we talking about? Are we talking about single family residential? Are we talking industrial? And we're also talking about a system development charge. That gets back to my other.
So the questions can be answered there. It would be any development. It's not limited to single family residential or residential. It'd be any development.
Well, for example, Shenandoah comes in. Says, we want to do this development. Are you going to waive it on the system development charges that you would charge to a big developer like that? But according to this, we would.
You know, the developer would have to extend the public sewer system.
So waivers are only for people who are on septic and changing over to sewer.
Yeah,
Developer.
It's not for brand new.
CCs.
Yeah, they're paid by a lot going into development now. Which these incentives really come to. They're all current septic properties.
Yeah, so you're saying the 13, anyway, this section right here is for properties that is already available for this.
Properties on septic.
on septic available.
Correct,
Okay,
right, yeah.
okay. It's actually,
Vacant
Okay.
lots.
Okay, a phase-in allowance is established. Provides an option, on A2.
Yeah.
Provides an option to delay connection to the public sewer system and reduce penalty for failure to connect during the phase-in period. Again, why are we penalizing? Why do we do that?
It's,
Why not? If we're extending the sewer, put in the stuff, charge $30 a month,
State
you
constitution.
can call it a penalty if you want.
call it penalty if you want
well,
it,
that's what they're doing.
Yeah, right, but.
That's why they
okay,
said
but
penalized.
I think we're talking about the amount though.
right? And,
State constitution prevents what you're suggesting.
pardon?
The state courts prevent what you're suggesting.
But if we call it a penalty,
We're allowed to charge a
we're just
penalty.
lowering it $30. We're saying it's $30 a month. We're talking semantics here, so I'm just trying to help. I think we're talking past each other. What if Dave concedes and says, okay, call it a penalty, just have it be $30 a month and get rid of, he's just modifying this a little bit. Is what he's doing. That's all he's doing.
You're comfortable just setting $30 a month if it's suggested by a council member, but when staff brings you the data, that's not.
I haven't seen the data. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's what that's what the $40 was. The $40 is the it's taking out operation and maintenance. And it's the capital.
No, but the data I haven't seen. The data I'm interested in is and finally I heard it tonight for the first time, which is good. I mean, is the 0 to 20 to 21,000 on that subset. That's the data I'm interested in. And I think that what I'm also trying to do, the reason I'm trying to get that number as low as possible is come up with a way to help group B and minimize the poor person in group A. So I'm trying to help thread that needle. It's all where I'm coming from as one person. And so that's why I like lower amounts versus higher amounts. And that's why I like Dave's number I think Dave had a good thing is instead of having this, just have it more friendly, more carrot-like, have it be a lot lower amount And then also,
So is there a concrete proposal here for a change that we can do a thumbs up or thumbs down on, to move the conversation along?
Well, we're talking about the amount.
Yeah.
Well, I would say whatever that system amount is, that $40 that you guys are talking about,
Okay.
utilize that as your stub fee. And then if I've got an empty lot and the sewer line's coming by my place, I say, well, I don't want to build right now, but I might want to build in 10 years. So I'll start paying that $40 stub fee until such point as I decide to build. And when I build, then I don't have to pay an $8,000 system development charge to hook in the sewer.
I was thinking about this idea, Dave, because you were explaining it, and I was like, okay, how could this work? How would this work for people? So am I hearing you correctly that you would want to start charging stub fee for lots that have no buildings on them? So that would be more than 25 units, okay? And so then so two scenarios. What happens to the person that says, I'm not gonna build for 25 years, okay, you're 17, and the next month they're like, I think we're build.
Okay.
So they paid $20 towards the SDC, we waive their entire SDC?
but by doing that, guess what? It gave them a strong incentive to give us more housing that we need. So we have an incentive to get housing built, don't we? Because they save money. We want housing. So if those empty lots, if they're paying, so we've actually come up with a way to tax a new group we weren't thinking of before. That's fine based on your theory. But it also gives those people an incentive to go and develop their lots to give us the housing we've been all crying about for years.
That's
If that's a programmatic change, they would require more. So with that aside, that again, the collection of the things are the reasons why you're not ready to pass it. Then you're not ready to pass it. And okay.
But we are making
And-
progress.
But I think,
I appreciate that. And progress involves these concrete things that bother you and talking about them as a council. And you need to get there. And I'm happy to see you getting there.
Can I make a point? Just like staff has learned more over time, so are we getting feedback in the community and learning more. The council is learning more from the community. So we're all in this together.
Okay.
Mayor, I think as I dig into this, because I'm talking about failure to connect penalties and all of these other things. I think that's more than what we should be trying to tackle. I mean, we're almost 20 minutes to 8 right now.
Dave, I came into this meeting with the notion of there will be no workshop, but I.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's gonna be a workshop, a special meeting.
Thank you.
That decision's been made.
What are the outcomes that you want from that workshop so that we can tailor it correctly and not?
We're doing what we're doing right now.
Okay.
So here's,
So the expectation is that all of you come with specific changes that you want to see, and you can talk about those specific changes, which.
Get everything ironed out in that meeting so that we can move this forward in the June.
can I make a suggestion, and maybe this is not
Go ahead.
gonna work, but, like Dave has he's done a great job of highlighting his things, and Pat's made some notes. We're all kind of making our own comments. Would this be something, Ben, where we could like send Wes or you or whoever we need to send them to individually, send our things over, and then we have a synopsis of, okay, these are the things that you brought up before, and then when we walk into it with a little bit of knowledge of the ideas that the different council members have. Not saying these are Dave's ideas, these are Pat's ideas, but these are the changes that
This is the list.
This is the list of things,
to go through,
potential
yeah.
changes,
And that's what
and that way we come in before the meeting and have a chance to look at some of those, because some of Dave's ideas, I had never, we all come up with our own stuff and hadn't considered, or, so maybe we send all those in, you send up, just bring it down, and then we come together again and kind of do that, whether that's a workshop or a special meeting or whatever you want to call it. Does that?
If you all can commit to that.
I can.
I can commit to organizing the information and getting it to.
And here's the funny thing, I mean, I'm on sewer. And and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that's fighting for the little guy.
All right.
That's it.
Okay.
Where's my list here? Yes, public hearing has already been closed, so shall we move along?
Yeah. And can I just say, the changes that we've made, that we've agreed to, though, I mean, we haven't lost that.
That much we got done right now.
It was part of the list that, yeah, you already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, Rick, is smiling. Wasn't that the one that you did, Ed?
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you. It's my day. Almost as much as Patrick and salmon. The salmon are running.
That they are.
Righty, so I would like to open up the public hearing at 7:41 in regards to the capital and transportation improvement program update. Take us away, Wesley.
Okay, thank you. So staff have met to go over the capital improvement plan, and what you have in your packet is last year's list of priorities. We are still working to update that list and rank them, but we wanted to get your feedback tonight on this list of priorities. I'll turn it over to Carolyn and Cody if they have any other comments on this, because they're much better experts than I am.
There are some projects on that list that have been completed. I suspect you guys know which ones they are. I would strongly encourage that you look at projects that are 2026 related to 2026 as a starting point. You know, last year we got a little bit bogged down because of the pure volume of projects, but guys, they focus on the top half.
Right.
And like, you see anything below that you'd like to promote higher. A couple items about how the list was put together, just reminders. This list is generated by the water plan and the sewer plan, and some of the projects on the list are identified by the community. Or council members, or might even be staff members. But the vast majority are part of asset management as it relates to the water and sewer plans.
Expectations, you're not expected to make any decisions tonight. We're opening up a conversation and with the public hearing about the capital improvements that are planned, the capital improvements that the city will invest in, the infrastructure that the city will invest in next year, so that budgets can be created for drafted for you all for next year, and then for the 5 years that follow that. So where do you want to invest? Which types of infrastructure do you want to invest in? This is the list that you had adopted last year. It's something that we do every year to make sure every year that we get it right. And, opening that conversation about, does this one look right? Previous years, and how might it change in years going forward? So we will, in addition to the hearing tonight, have another hearing in June to finalize things. This is the capital improvement plan. It includes all of your systems. There's a subset of it for the transportation improvement plan. That's something the state does require us to adopt every year. They're taking that information into account, or not taking it into account when they consider gas taxes and how to fund transportation projects. So part of this goes up to the states, and then the state does whatever the state does with that list. But it's an opportunity every year for the community to validate or change the year before to see if you're getting it right, if you're serving there.
And this is a public hearing, right?
Okay. So just let me know when we're done with staff report.
I think we're done.
All right. So anybody like to speak on this matter to the council?
I,
I'm saying none. We'll close
Oh,
the
I
hearing
apologize.
at 7:45. Now,
the way I look at this list, I understand that historically, we've said that this is like a wish list, because if something's not on here and a grant opportunity comes along, then it has to be on the list. What I would like to do is see a list that's a little more hardcore. That if we come up with a grant opportunity on something that's not on the list, staff can come to the council and say, hey, there's a grant opportunity. We have a project that's been on people's radar in the past. It's not on the list. Can we get it on the list? I prefer that approach to where we just, this list is really hardcore to where we say, hey, what realistically, like if I look at the next 2 years or a year period in the near future, can we realistically afford? And where do we think we're gonna get the money? What's a high likelihood of success on that? And narrow that list down to those, this is what we're gonna try to do. Historically, it seems like we all have these great intentions of these big ideas. We have a lot of projects, but we're failing at a lot of them. So anyway, with that backdrop said, I would like to see, and I even, the Columbia Avenue realignment project taken off of this list in the near future because I don't see any foreseeable way that's gonna happen anyway. And in fact, there was even a staff member that recommended that be farther down the list last year, as I recall. Because it's just too huge of a project that we're not gonna accomplish with too many unknowns. So, but yet it's like happening now on the list. So that I propose that.
Just a quick comment. Did we not? Is Holly Street gravel? Yeah, and we did that and H&H too, right? Well, because the county was up there and doing it at the time, and so those could probably be pulled off of there.
Correct.
You know, so I would say we need to probably update this list as to what's been done, what hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
We are. Yeah.
Well, as Ben pointed out, 'cause this was getting the temperature on the room.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it
And-
still shows 24, so some of those things are already done.
Right.
Just as a point of clarification for myself, are these separate items all already funded in a special fund, or are we budgeted? They're budgeted?
If you scroll down, it shows whether, like, what stage these are at. Each project has its own page.
Okay, yeah, right.
And so it shows.
Yeah, but
whether or
that's
not-
pretty
it
hard
shows-
to go.
No, I'm just saying, if you have questions about it, it will kind of explain.
It-
those
it-
things.
It explains the financial position we're on in each of them.
And where they
I see.
are, if they're to the funding stage yet or not, if they're, where they fall. Each project is,
As of last year.
as of last year,
Yeah.
done. And that's.
And Carolyn's done a great job of putting in an explanation of what these different projects are too. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Probably the most valuable thing that you would get off of those one sheets.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You could also just ask if there's any.
Right, but that was super helpful for me, even growing up here, some streets I just don't know the names, I'm like, oh, that's over by so-and-so's house or whatever.
Should have been a policeman.
Is there any way
Oh,
to,
good,
to incorporate some of this information, the financial information on that spreadsheet? Any way to incorporate any of some of the financial information on the spreadsheet, or check marks or asterisks or something that would indicate, whether fully funded, whether we're budgeted or?
You know,
I
maybe,
don't know how.
Color code.
maybe what you could do, Caroline, is do a hyperlink to, from there, and do a hyperlink and for like the school.
Dave, did you just say hyperlink?
Yeah.
Look at Dave, what is going on? You're on a roll, buddy.
Put a hyperlink on it.
Yeah, you take and I'll take some of it.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that, but.
I'll
look into it.
I was.
I'll show you how to do that.
I appreciate it.
Or-
I know we.
or color code them too.
Right, but we can't, so.
And
Yeah, I know it'll take time, but I appreciate that information when it comes to, that was really helpful for me last year, so.
Yeah, ideally, what we discussed is ideally we update the ones that are in the 26.
And yeah,
time
I
frame
heard
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not necessarily,
Yeah.
update the others, but if there's anything that you would like to see, or be.
Or move up into the 26 or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Or move out of the 26.
Mhm.
That's probably
Yeah, the problem with these is I mean, some maybe, I wouldn't say this, but for the most part, they're all good projects if the money were there. What I would be interested in seeing at some point is the staff. I remember an interview where somebody talked about projects. And they said, no, I just remember a time somebody said about projects is, you should only work on projects that you know where the funding's coming in. In other words, what does the staff going through this say, in the next few years, we can sink our teeth into this and we think we know where the money will come from and that we can get it. To where it's more of not a wish list, but hey, we think we can be successful on implementing these projects. And here's why we think we can be successful. Here's where we think we can get the money. So these then stand a high likelihood of getting, instead of, I was accused recently by somebody of, well, you caused us to fail on all these projects. What if we just had a smaller list? So failure, we weren't failing on so many of these projects because it was more doable. Wasn't trying to remodel the whole house. I was just trying to get my new garage door open. Ben's got his hand up.
So one of the purposes of the list in its current form is to ensure that the projects that staff spends their time on reflect the community's will.
Yeah,
And
if
so
that
what
list
you're
is not
suggesting
realistic.
by not having a list is that staff is in control of determining what projects get worked on and get on the list. I don't think that's what you actually want.
No, I think what I don't want is a nilly-willy list that is almost meaningless to where staff is just running ragged, trying to do the impossible. That is what I don't want.
Well, they're not necessarily working on the entire list.
Well,
Well,
Right.
actually,
I would
I'm
take
actually
offense
really
to the
excited
nilly-willy.
What I would love to kind of acknowledge is, so the top 5 projects, we can just go down top 7.
Okay.
Out of the top 7 projects, we have, either secured funding or budgeted for, 5 of those 7. So to me, like, that's success. Like, I feel like this is actually a good list. If you look at last year, what we said we were gonna do last year, to where we are now, like, we're absolutely, in alignment. And the ones for, we're looking at for 26, we're working on getting, funding estimates for them so that we're able to identify that, we need to know how much a project is gonna cost, so we're able to go find money for it. We need to understand the scope, so we understand where, what those potential funding areas are. And so we kind of need the full list, so we can evaluate the full list and those priority projects float to the top so that we can start to sink our teeth into them.
And if they were hyperlinked, you can click on any one of them and go right to theirs.
We call that callback.
and you've asked for input, and I'm just trying to get some
So,
input.
and then the other part is that what we've done with the budgets is the project doesn't go into the budget until we secure the funds. So it all starts from the list. Yes, they will go into the budget as soon. And we had a long discussion about that going into budget last year, that we need to be nimble if we want to continue to.
Kind of reminds me of going Christmas
A
shopping.
tiny asterisk on, what you just shared though, Scott, would be that, we have budgeted to get those estimates so that we're able to bring forward. So we haven't budgeted for full design or construction of most of these projects. I'm not gonna say all, because we do have budget for the Ash Alley. But the projects that require, design that's out of house, and higher dollar construction money, we have budgeted to get those estimates so that we can then go identify funding sources.
On the Columbia Street realignment program, you asked for input, you got my input on that, but it's only one person, so I don't know how the rest of the council feels about that, but you asked for taking,
Yeah.
So, but I'm only one of 5.
Push that one down.
Well,
That's mine, I'm admitting
Don't
that,
be quick on that one.
I'm admitting that I don't know how the other council members feel about that.
The conversation,
Which one?
the process, the conversation that unfolds through this is to understand whether the list of projects is supported by the public, whether there's something that's the public really needs that's not on this list. Carolyn shared how the list has been populated so far. But making sure we're working on the right projects.
Mhm.
Then the next step is to work as staff to make sure that we're saying and undertaking the number of projects that can be done next year or in the next 6 years. And I think that's where it's been stressful for us and hard to be successful for us in the past is that we take on too much.
Okay, so we're in agreement.
So,
Well, we got
so
money.
the
We have
process
money available and we want it.
accommodates all that. So we need to know what the projects are that are important so that as staff, we can say, all right, that's going to take about this many hours of our time next year and we can accomplish that and that and that and not that one, but those and bend that curve. The Gantt chart has a lot of projects right up front. Bend that curve out so that we can be successful, so that we can do the right things as we move forward. And that's all what this conversation is. We have that conversation every year.
Okay, so is the Russell Street restriping, is that too small a project? Don't want.
See that on the revised list. It wasn't a project last year, so. But yes, it's on.
It's on this year's list.
Okay, I still have people asking me about it.
I don't.
You're bringing that up.
You still have a couple things to sit down and show you, John, and just
Okay.
still catch my feet after getting back.
Okay.
The Lasher Street project, that is including the upper portion that's being worked on now and the sidewalk that goes past the church to the grade school that's now closed, or is that just the upper project?
It's just last year.
So that's the upper thing that we're already in the works.
It's just on Lasher. It doesn't include any of Jefferson.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so that's already in the works. I mean, we already got that well underway.
Yeah, you guys, that is one where, it's not fully funded. We think that we feel very confident in where the funding is coming from. But, when you see that energy update, you'll see that it's not fully funded. I certainly wouldn't pull out of it because there's $800,000 towards it. It's a high community project. I mean, there's lots of factors to take into account besides, whether we have money in hand right now.
And then what the road one top division.
Whoever.
Whatever one please, if you put that up there, that'd be awesome.
All right, so this revised list will be out before the meeting.
Next month. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
What did we commit to? Is it the
June.
Monday before the Friday before?
We are meeting as this group.
Next week?
Yeah,
Okay.
next week. So yeah, the revised list will definitely be ready before the June meeting and probably well before that. So we'll get it out to you as soon as we have that final. But yeah.
As soon as you want the
He
update.
wants to show you how you get high feelings. For the-
Yeah, I need to learn that.
You coming now?
We didn't get any comments from the public on this list. We got one comment from Pat on this list and one comment from Chuck about what should be on this list. But that same commitment that you all made to provide specifics for the sewer ordinance,
Mhm.
absolutely welcome the same level of commitment for this, where here's what I think is missing from the list. Here's what I think should be removed from the list. And that's how we advance the conversation.
Just send that to you,
make
Wes.
it easy to.
Yeah,
read.
you can send it to me.
Right.
Public comment?
Oh, that's already done. Oh, jumping ahead to 11. So Wes is going to talk to us about authorizing USDA bond issuance.
Yeah, so sorry, I put that down on the agenda, but I am certainly not fully up to speed on that. Please do.
Absolutely. So we have funding with USDA for our lift station project, and as we're coming to the end, we're more in a construction-based funding, and that will need to be transferred to a more permanent funding solution. And again, like Wes, I don't know the exact details of it, but we have a gentleman on the call named Mark who's been willing to chat with you guys. Essentially what we need
or we're hoping to get out of this is you get West the authority to be able to sign,
And Scott as well.
and Scott as well,
Yeah.
to be able to sign to get this out of construction funding and Mark's assist. And
Yeah.
Mark's gonna help us and talk to us here in a minute and we'll
Are you
walk
still
through
awake?
it.
I'm on audio. I don't know that I'm on camera. So, my name's Mark Greeno. I'm the lawyer at the Foster Garvey firm in Seattle that does your bonding work and have done so for many years. So it's a pleasure to talk to you. The ordinance before you authorizes the city to borrow money from the USDA for your sewer projects, and this was approved by the USDA back in 2020. And at that time, they approved the project, approved your loan, and approved your going ahead and borrowing money for construction funding, which you have been doing so from Kashmir Valley Bank during the last 5 years. And now, as you close out the project, then USDA will become your lender and they will lend you the money and you will pay off the line of credit that you've been drawing on from Kashmir Valley Bank. And so this form of ordinance was approved by the USDA 5 years ago. That was kind of the condition of going forward with the project. This is a very typical water and sewer bond ordinance. It's essentially identical to the ordinance that the city adopted for its first USDA loan in 2013. And it is payable from what we call the net revenue of the water and sewer system. So that is the money comes into your water and sewer system, and you pay your operating and maintenance expenses. And then the next claim on those funds is paying off your debts, the 2013 loan, and then this loan to the USDA. And then after that, whatever's left over, you can use for capital improvements or to accumulate fund balance or for any other purpose of your water and sewer utility system. The promises that you make to the USDA in this ordinance are very typical. As you might imagine with a federal government loan, it's very, very standardized. And so you, along with other communities in Washington and across the country, have very much the similar type of bond ordinance and promises that you make to the government, which is that you will pay them timely and that you will accumulate sufficient reserves in your short-lived asset reserve fund and in your debt service reserve fund to build up a cushion in case you have a bad year, and you'll have funds to draw on in order to be able to make the federal government whole in their loan to you. Yeah, I don't want to spend a whole lot more time on that, but if you have questions for me, then I'm more than happy to spend the time that it takes for you to walk through this.
Mark, this is Dave Cox. Hey, what is our percentage rates that we're currently paying and what will we be paying with USDA?
So you had a very low rate from Kashmir Valley Bank for the first 3 years. And then when the project got delayed and interest rates went up, then your rate on the Kashmir Valley Bank loan went up and it got bumped up pretty high. I think it's in the 5% range that you're paying on your construction loan now. But you locked in your USDA rate back in 2020 when it was very low. I actually don't have that rate in front of me, but I believe it's in the ones or the twos. It's quite favorable.
That'll work.
So
The federal government is very they're lovely people. They're very, very bureaucratic and it takes a long time to work through them, but the terms that they give you are quite favorable. So you have a long term to pay off the loan and a very low interest rate.
So do they have about 12 million that we could pay off our wastewater treatment plant?
Well, as you might imagine, the local person who was in Yakima, one of them retired, and then the next person got fired. So you're basically dealing with one person left in Olympia, and I expect that she's pretty swamped.
Okay, thank you. Just thought I'd ask.
Okay, question. So this is just a housekeeping measure to get a lower rate to pay what we've already committed
Right.
to paying. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah, but we're,
The only question I have on that
You
is,
basically signed on to this program back in 2020 when you accepted the grant funding and agreed to take out the loan. And we've just been waiting. USDA will not actually lend you the money until the project achieves substantial completion, which should be coming up in the next month or so. And so finally, after 5 years, you've closed out the project, and now we're going to authorize the actual loan to USDA to pay off your construction lender.
so this is just a financial housekeeping thing it's necessary for that transaction to continue. The only question I have is, you said, you had the comment in there, and then if there's any money left over. So I'm curious, is this the amount that's necessary, or is there gonna be are we borrowing more than we need, which is a low interest rate maybe isn't a bad thing? What did you mean by if there's money left over, then it can go into whatever, blah, blah, blah?
After we pay off our bills, whatever we have left over in the checking account.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about the amount of the loan. I was talking about the amount of rate revenue that you get every month.
Oh, I get it. That's where I got confused. Thank you.
My apologies if that was confusing.
Oh, no, that was probably me.
Mark, I know we have a pretty stringent timeline on this. Would you mind discussing that with the council as well?
So we're trying to close this out in early July, which means we're introducing the ordinance to you at your May meeting. We would request that you adopt it at your June meeting. At your June meeting, there will also be another resolution, a form resolution that formalizes the loan in the form that the federal government likes. And then after that, we'll have some closing papers for the mayor, the clerk, and probably the city administrator to sign. We've drafted those up. You've had some turnover, so we have to, since 2020, so we'll have to change the names on some of those, but we did this in 2013 for you. We've been doing this with your construction lending, and so we'll get it worked out. But the timing is introduction today, passage of the bond ordinance in June at the second reading, and adoption of the loan resolution proposed by the USDA at the June meeting, which we will get out to you for your packet so that you can review it in time.
My question is do we need that? Is it legally required that we have that second hearing? If this is something we're gonna have to do anyway, and this is just all paperwork, is there a reason we cannot pass this tonight? Because it's something we have to do anyway, it sounds like. And am I wrong on that? So this is gonna be a have-to thing. So is there any reason we cannot just approve this tonight if the full council agrees, of course?
I can't answer that. I would have to ask Robert because on the procedural rules, because I'm still.
I'm not your city attorney, and there's no reason not to go ahead and put it on again in June, because that's kind of the timeline that we're expecting. And we'll have to bring the resolution to you, the USDA loan resolution to you in June anyway. So there's no need to adopt it tonight. We just wanted to, we really don't like bringing forward proposals to the city council and saying, you have to look at this and you have to adopt it tonight. We want you to have two touches. So there's no need for it.
Thank you.
all right, thanks for hanging out.
Appreciate it, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, there's nothing that I like hearing about more than sewer availability charges. So.
You can have this seat
Said no one.
if you want.
No. I got my lesson taught to me by the Supreme Court when we tried to defend soap lakes. So.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks for your time.
thank you.
My pleasure.
All righty, so next up is.
Fee schedule.
Yeah, approving the resolution, updating the fee schedule.
Yeah, so this is a pretty simple resolution to match our fee schedule with the county's, just in regards to the fees for building permits and the fire marshal services. I don't know if there's really anything else to add to it, but that's pretty much the short long.
This was discussed before that there was gonna be an alignment of the fees, so.
Yep.
I asked how much, what I didn't see in there, and maybe I missed it, is how much we were how much the fees were going out on these.
We took what the county provided.
So,
That's
okay,
their
so-
fees.
So do we know how much we're raising these? I guess is my question.
I think there were some that went both ways, right?
Yeah.
It went up, some went down.
Okay, I guess that's the part I missed, but I may have just missed it. I'm not gonna.
Do we have an actual motion on?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the approval of resolution 2025-453 to update the comprehensive fee schedule.
Second.
First and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hold on. You do have some informational items in your packet. All right, staff reports.
Starting with what the women who gave the public comments already commented on. So they provided comments to you the last time, started looking at our vacation rental licensing program. And, we've sent that to the city planning commission to start that review. As with any policy project or project that comes before the city planning commission like that, the first thing they do is set out to understand what some of the issues are and establish a public engagement strategy. And so they've done that. Their intent is to hold a workshop, essentially asking the public, is this program working for you, or are there ways that it's not working for you? So very open-ended question out of that workshop. And document what we hear. They would then follow that up with a focus group to drill into the recommendations that were submitted to you all and to the planning commission, and tailor a program or amendments to that program consistent with what's appropriate for Stevenson today. So that is moving forward. The earliest that you would possibly see that would be August to accommodate the public workshop, the focus group, amendment review recommendation of the city council. So you don't expect to see that until August. There was a suggestion to adopt a moratorium by them tonight. We will proceed with that if you suggest it, but we're not suggesting adopting a moratorium. I'm not suggesting it.
I didn't have a lot of interest in that idea either.
I don't know if that's necessary.
Yeah.
No, it's not like we have Disneyland here.
But that's to be based on inadequate information at this point. We don't have enough.
Yeah.
They don't have either way. I mean, we know we have a housing issue and that this could have impact on, we just don't know about that.
The planning commission isn't undertaking any other specific policy initiatives right now. That will be something that they do this this summer. When they finish that, and if you're done with the sewer ordinance, then I think they'd be ready to retake up the annexation policy. That's something that they were reviewing in the past. And they were grappling with those same questions about what is the future of the extents of the city's sewer system. And so because they couldn't answer that on their own, they put that issue on hold until this one's ready. So whenever this one's ready, or do they be ready to return to that? That's on the policy side. Development review side, we've got permits applications coming in for Chinandere phase 2, 3. So that's primarily where the lots are available. There are a few little infill lots that are difficult. And as I tell applicants, the places that were easy to build in Stevenson are already built. So the infill lots that are still available out there are vacant for a reason. And a lot of them have issues, but some property owners are looking through some of those issues and should have a couple of those. But once those are done and once Chinandere is built out, we really won't have much of an inventory for construction of new homes. We're not seeing a lot of pre-application talk right now about land divisions or where it might come from. So those dynamics lead to higher housing costs. There's still gonna be a demand to live out here, to move out here. Fewer houses to fulfill that demand means higher costs for that. So it'd be great to see some construction, see some land division proposals, see some multifamily housing proposals. We're not getting those calls right now. We'll wait to see that. We are getting the call from the developer on Rock Cove, so that project is moving forward. They're documenting how they've satisfied the conditions that have been put on them by the city so far, the City Planning Commission and the shoreline review, and getting ready to move into the construction. One of those conditions relates to the access requirement, and the way that they'll be satisfying that is to do a plats alteration, platification, one of those two, I forget, I get those confused, which require review by the city council. And so if you start getting people asking you questions about that, like we learned through the process with the rezone, try not to answer those. You can direct them to city staff. Try to keep yourselves clear on appearance of fairness disclosures, ex parte conditions. Staff can address those. We don't have a hearing scheduled for that, but it does involve a hearing for you. And it's at that hearing when all the information will be presented for you all to make those decisions. Facilities plan, we are working on as discussed. It's time.
Can't hear you, Ben. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We will be ready to present you with a better document explaining what the capital facilities program is and the process related to it, and updating those detail sheets about specific projects, getting ready to evolve what the program is from that Gantt chart with the detailed sheets to something that you can take to constituents and say, oh, here, this is how decisions are made on these. So happy to see that coming together, and I hope that you will be when that's presented to you later this month, next month. End of report. Good. Yeah.
Well, so I will be trying to go through this a little bit quick and respect everybody's time, but if you guys have questions, just please feel free to interrupt. Just gonna kind of go through the different avenues of the public works side. First off, we'll start with water. We interestingly enough had a hit and run on a fire hydrant in the last few days. So if you guys see a missing fire hydrant from Ace Hardware, we are working on resolving that. The sheriff's office did a wonderful job of tracking the individual down and actually booked the individual. We were able to obtain all their documentation, so we'll be going through with the billing process of charging for labor time material.
Was that the one that was caught on flock camera?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep. Flock camera caught it.
Yes, indeed.
Cascade bid for the water and sewer improvements on Cascade Street went out. We've already had a few interested contractors in the local Gorge area pick it up. We have a pre-bid meeting next week to kind of review with anybody that might, any local or any contractors at all that would like to see it. But it's exciting that it has traction already. We are continuing to do our PFAS sampling. I know it's something that the community has been pretty interested in. So far, all good results. Moving on to our wastewater, like we have mentioned, our pump station project is coming to an end. Substantial was issued this week, and they're working on punch list items. We are continuing kind of the same status with the wastewater treatment plant. They have their substantial, but still battling through punch list. Expect to continue for a little while. Ecology did come down and visit us in late April and inspected and reviewed a lot of the new infrastructure along the treatment. And what resulted of that visit was good things, but we will be issuing new wastewater treatment plant permits. We haven't had a new one since the late 2008, 2009. They're supposed to be issued every 4 or 5 years, but because of the issues, it just kept getting pushed off. I have reviewed all 100 pages, painfully, And there wasn't much change. There will be a few additional testing requirements, but most of them are annual, so it's not like we're doing them every week or every month. And then there was a little bit more monitoring of our effluent discharge out to the Columbia just for temperature. Since the Columbia River is kind of a sensitive area, they're pretty sensitive about how warm our effluent is. Not expecting to have any issues with that. Streets, we got our 30% plans for last year, so we're reviewing those, and we're set to meet with our engineer next week to kind of review them. The First Street project has a few more punch list items. It's going to be closed from the 19th to the 23rd, so they can replace a few more concrete panels in that walkway. And then after that, I would imagine it'll be fairly well wrapped up.
The striping really
The stripe,
did a major improvement down there.
yeah, and
It really did.
they're looking at it again tomorrow. We need to add the 25 miles per hour back in. So the striping contractor will be out tomorrow to take a look at fog lines and stuff like that. So that is on the list as well.
Big improvement, thank you.
Good, good. The SDA has got Schroeder back up and open, so it's awesome for the community. We're gonna continue to foster and partner as best we can. Typically do that by doing a weekly or bi-weekly trash pickup and doing whatever else we can to kind of help them out. The Transportation Improvement Board, TIB, last year had their workshop here, and they liked it so much that they surprised us with another round. So I think it was Carolyn she got an invitation for the TIB, and she's like, "Oh, where is it?" Clicks on it. Stevenson, Washington, City Hall. So apparently we're hosting. Surprise, but that's a good thing. It'll be here and easy to attend. We met with the county to discuss paving for Railroad, Seymour, and Ash Alley. They're working on new costs for us since we have costs from last year, but we have funding for that identified, and we're expected to proceed with that project. Probably be early August if I had to take a guess, but all areas that are very, very much in need of some love. The crew has been planting a lot of trees, as I'm sure you guys may or may not have seen. Got them in a little bit later than we like, so we implemented tree bags around them, and they're 30 gallons every once a week probably. The guys will fill them up, so that way they just slowly seed, just to kind of make sure our investment of the trees go away. And wayfinding signs, they've also been hard at work at that. There are only a couple more left, so if you're driving around, be sure to look at those. Spruce Up Stevenson had our first event. It seemed that I wasn't there because I just had a child, but so I think I got a buy out of that one. It was a good event. It was largely focused at Walnut Park. A lot of new mat went down, a lot of bark dust, a lot of weeding. Scott built a wonderful wall at the club. And we have a little bit more work to do down there, but the crew will re-engage. But if you guys haven't been down to the Walnut Park in the last few weeks, it's definitely worth a look. It transformed it quite much. And with that, they turned on irrigation so all over town. So if you see any dead spots or dry spots or something to look at here, let us know. Move on to staff. Our utility maintenance position is set to close tomorrow. We currently have over 25 applications. So great turnout.
We're up to 30 now.
Up to 30. Personally, I'm very happy about that because it means people want to work for us and we'll be doing something right. We did something a little bit different with our flagger training. Our flagger certs last 3 years and you have to go renew them. We were able to partner with the county and actually bring somebody in and train. Gosh, there were like 20 of us in there, all
23.
locally. What's that?
23.
23, yes. So that was great to be able to get that out of the way. So everybody's up inserted. Nobody had to drive to Vancouver or Portland to go do it. Everybody was able to stay local. Big thanks to Tiffany. She put legs to that, and there was a lot of effort with that one. That was a pain, but she made it work, and I think we found a great trainer that will be able to support us in the future. Mr. Carson Whitney passed his wastewater treatment plant 1, which was his last cert he needed to obtain. And coincidentally, Mr. John Schultz went and took his test today and also passed. Yes. Yeah, so that was his last cert to obtain. So the crew is third up. Great. Stevenson Fire, Chief Rock approached us and they had a volunteer who like, it's like an internship that's paid through the school district, but they're going to be repainting the hydrants and getting them like a universal national fire protective code. So the bodies will end up being yellow and then the bonnets and the caps will be color coded to tell the responding agencies how many gallons a minute it is. So we picked up a bunch of paint this week and I would imagine that project will take off soon. And just a couple more. Engineering standards are currently being reviewed. It's been a big lift from Carolyn and our engineering partner. We're just trying to streamline them and get a lot more one pages. They're a lot of text. They're very text heavy and they're a little bit wordy, confusing. So really just trying to get solid details, pictures, and descriptions. But they're coming together and they're very coming together very well. We're to the point where we'll probably do our second reach out to the local contractors to get any input or feedback from them. Public Works Week is coming up. Tiffany and Caitlin have big plans on highlighting the crew, and their focus this year is going to be people, purpose, and presence to highlight kind of the 3 core values of the Public Works employee. And then lastly, just a couple of events coming up in the future. Largely, the public work will just be supporting by providing barriers and stuff like that. But the Stevenson Ridge Run will be coming through this weekend. Not much support from us, but they'll be coming through Stevenson. On June 3rd, we have concert on the highway, so it'll be a little lift from us to provide some barricades and cones and stuff like that. And then the Pride Parade is scheduled for June 8th. Again, real mellow, but handing out some barricades and helping walk some this. Unless there's questions, that is the end of the report.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good.
Okay, thank you. And first, I want to thank you all for giving me a warm welcome here to Stevenson. I told myself I was going to dive in head first, and wow, I did. It's been a lot, but I really enjoyed it, and it's been great getting to know you all. With all the counselors, I started to meet with the planning commission, and I've really been taking the time to meet with the local stakeholders, such as the port, the Chamber of Commerce, Stevenson Downtown Association, and so I've made that a real priority in my first couple of weeks, but I don't want it to stop there. I want to continue those conversations. So in sort of a random order, just for updates, the mediation with Stellar J that was supposed to take place this month, but that has been pushed to June. The TBD sales and use tax will go into effect on July 1st, and we will be sending out notices to the businesses who will be impacted by that. In terms of staffing, as Cody mentioned, we posted the job for the utilities maintenance worker, and we got up to 30, probably more than that, applications. So that's good. And we will also be posting for the wastewater operator position soon. And also what we're looking into, and one thing I've been discussing with the team and with Scott and everyone else is changing the clerk treasurer position to a finance director position. We've had a lot of discussion around what those job duties might be, but I think it's really important to transform that position and to have a finance director so we can have someone take a really hard look at our finances and to make sure that we're in good shape and to work on our budget and the annual report. And so anyway, we'll be finishing up that job description and then sending it to you all for approval, hopefully by the June meeting. Just a quick update on one thing I'm looking into is as I've been meeting with the chamber and the downtown association is I'd like to work with staff to see how we can set up guides or to make using the website and going through applications and permitting easier with the city. I've heard a lot about how difficult that process can be, so I'm hoping we can either simplify that process or at least give them a guide on how to go about it. So it's easy for the small business owners and the people moving here to get that done.
Wes, can I talk about that for just a second with you?
Sure.
The website needs a lot of work.
Well,
And we're aware of that.
yes.
And I know that you get a lot of questions about documents that if we had the website set up correctly, that we wouldn't get those requests. Or you, like today with that map. You know, I looked all over the website for it. I did not see any place where that was at.
Yeah.
And so those are the kinds of things I think that we really need to concentrate on, and making sure also that all of our minutes to all of our meetings are adequately posted within, what is it, municipal code? What is the one that has all?
Unicode, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, just.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because it's something that is really important, but it's not at the top line. So,
Oh, yeah, I know.
so
I get that.
it keeps getting pushed back, but I think we, you know, at some point we have to make some progress on it. So yeah, that's something we'll be looking into. And I know Tiffany, and Caitlin have been working on the
Cause I know
the
she's
website.
working her tail off.
Yeah, oh yeah, she's busy, and that's, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's all I have. I'm sure I'll have a much longer update in June, but.
Go ahead and go back.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot on the staff update, Devin Grew is no longer with the city. He put his resignation in late April, and his last day effective was May 5th. Of course. Posting for that this week. Probably next.
All right, one of you has a proposal for switching out of Laserfish.
Did not know I was quite a proposal.
I know, I wasn't trying to scare you down, but it says here that staff has a request on the books, so.
Yeah, I did not know that.
We currently have a online document repository and way to communicate with the public when they issue, when they make public records requests. The program that we use for that is called Laserfish, and it's been cumbersome to use for us. Tiffany's been exploring some other options there, and Civic Plus, which is a vendor we have for our website, Unicode, several other ways that we use it. There's comparable products, easier to use, less money. And so we're looking to change that. And that would be a component of not just accepting and responding to public records requests, but just having that online document repository that anybody can search.
Mm-hmm.
And it did come up, I think, last meeting, we discussed this as well, so we knew about this.
Yeah, because you can take hyperlinks and.
What have I done? What have I done?
Cut back on your medication, just a little bit, whatever it is.
So action on this change, or is it just an update?
It's just an update.
Okay.
Yeah, because I knew that was gonna be less money and easier to use.
Okay.
Did Lucy have something?
I was just wondering if he wants a motion on it.
No.
I don't think so yet.
Yeah.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
I make a motion to approve the vouchers.
Second.
The first and second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 There we go. Anything for the greater good?
I have one thing. I am hosting a town hall Sunday, June 22nd, 6 to 8 p.m. gallery room at the library.
And we are continuing in the opioid abatement committee to continue to go over applications, so I can't remember what the exact total number is right now, but we put out quite a bit of money for different projects that have been assigned to us, so we've pushed those on to the county commissioners for.
Yes, and I have one comment. My application to build a house here on our property in Stevenson is progressing. So just for the record, I do live in Stevenson, Washington. Just if anybody has any doubt. Okay, so I'm glad that's settled.
I have one possible item that may need to be put on our agenda for next month.
addition to the next meeting. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh,
Looking for council.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. That we, since we have the Transportation Benefit District funds starting July 1st, that we still need to make a budget adjustment for our street funding.
And where is that fund going? Where is that money going to?
Well, it's supposed to go to
hey,
cities, water.
hey. Leave that for an agenda item, please. Okay.
Thank you.
That'll be a big discussion outside.
Well, he was ready.
Oh, yeah, so we are, okay,
Might
so
need to
we've
go
gone
for
through the vouchers,
city
counter
center.
reports. Like I say, we're missing the agenda item where we solicit additional items. But before we gloss over the reports, this is Carolyn's last meeting with us. So she said it wasn't a big deal, that we didn't have to make a big deal. You have been a big
I'll
deal.
probably be here next month.
But way to just go like, well, you enjoyed having you here. You made a big deal, a big splash. A lot of improvements have been made, and I appreciate everything that you've done for the city. And I wish you success in your next adventure.
Yes.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts on what should go, would like to see on the agenda next month? Jeff, did you have some additional public comment on items that we've already discussed tonight?
Well, I follow up on Ben's, we had a good conversation with regard to vacation. But we took, I think, a broader scope than just the comments that were brought to the board. This is almost a 10-year-old ordinance, so it's going back and saying, it's time to do that periodic review. There was a lot of public input on the original one, and I think we're really interested, not just in getting input from those folks that have vacation rentals, but also from the neighborhoods where these vacation rentals are located. So we have some balanced input. So I think Ben is working on trying to get that set up for us, where we can have a workshop and then a focus group to help us really take a look at how it's performing. I think one thing we know is we don't know a fair amount about how many vacation rentals we have out there, or this licensing process, as you heard earlier. And then one thing that didn't mention is that the planning commission is going to meet with the county planning, talk about how we might align the two critical area ordinances between the two jurisdictions, so that there's a consistent series of regulations in terms of critical areas, so that when you cross a line, you don't end up, on the same critical area with different provisions. So a lot of things coming up.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, so before I adjourn the meeting, I wanted to make sure that you all notice that one line item on the consent agenda, that next month's meeting is going to be a day early. So we'll be meeting on the Wednesday next month. So make sure you mark your calendars. In the meantime, it is 8:39, the meeting adjourned.
No, I had a question for somebody, but I'll figure it out.
Save it for next time.
No, it had to do with the Mendoza request for the RV. We don't have any city ordinances regarding RVs in the streets, public streets.
Oh, that's a good part.
RV.
Yeah, to the extent that we have an overnight parking prohibition that applies to some select streets downtown, it's not to all streets everywhere. We haven't addressed RV parking trees on those streets, so no. There have been barriers to creating an ordinance in place by the Supreme Court that said that you couldn't prohibit keeping on public properties unless there were adequate shelter beds in the community. And so that's an issue that a lot of communities just pushed away from. I believe that that's the case that, or that the Supreme Court has overturned a lower court's ruling. I forget exactly what they are. That there's some more opportunity for the city to engage that without considering shelter beds.
Ordinance pass. In Oregon, yeah.
Okay.